to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of The Rational Investor. This is Julian reporting in from Bangkok and at an earlier time. You may notice it is a different time. We'll see. Maybe we'll have less people today. But, you know, with the clocks changing, it would have been midnight for me. So I thought I did a survey of the community. Majority of people seem to be okay with doing an earlier time. So we're going to try it. Thursdays are going to be at this time going forward around 10 a.m. Eastern time. I think Brian will continue doing the other shows at 12. But that's the plan going forward, just because I think by midnight I'm going to be too tired. So 10 p.m. is okay for me. Well, look at this bottle. Always interesting when there's green, how it gets like cut out. All right, hopefully you guys are having a great week. Bitcoin is taking off like crazy. Not really surprised there at all. And the S&P is acting strangely as well. We're going to take a look at both. Stay tuned. I'm going to shrink myself first, and we will go through all of the insanity. Feels like it's insanity every week. It never stops. Let's get rid of that, and let's go to my little background. Hello, Mr. MS or Miss MS. We got 7 people in here. More people should be joining, but again, the show is at a weird time, so let's see what happens. If you guys have any comments or anything you want me to look at, just let me know. This is the free public show. I'm going to go through my spiel, and then generally, like, specific stocks we look at in the after party for members only. So just something to keep in mind. So here's the first thing. Let's look at the events today. We had unemployment claims came out in line. Not a big surprise there. Fed Powell is talking at 2. What is Powell talking about at 2? Oops, let's go back. What does it say? Is he talking about? Where is it? Why can't I see it? Oh, let me click here. And here. And then this little folder thing. So he's participating in some kind of panel, monetary challenges in a global economy. They must need the market to move somewhere, so they're putting Powell on this panel to throw the market for another tailspin, give an excuse for some movements, stop runs, things like that. I do think that Powell is a bit of a chess piece that they just move around and they have him speak when they need volatility in the market. That's just my opinion for what it's worth. Anyway, let's check out investor sentiment survey. We talked about this last week. I said that bearishness was at an all-time high, and that was a massive warning to me that we could get that huge short squeeze that we've gotten over the past week and a half. This was since, 11-1, and if I pull up the stock chart, right, let's look at this. So let's go to S&P, right, and let's look at November 1st. This was when it was reported. Massive bearishness. The data was all from back here. Everyone was super bearish here. And we got the data on November 1st. That's when the chart was updated. And it just took off after that. I mean, you could have taken huge advantage of that. When I talked about it last show, it was the 2nd. So we were already about in this area. So not surprised at the rise that's happened. We're kind of falling back now. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. I want to go through the news a bit and the investor sentiment. Now look at this. Now we're on the other side with 42% bullish. I've never seen a flip like this. In the year and a half I've been kind of looking at this, I have never seen a flip-flop this much in such a short period of time. This is concerning. This is a massively small amount of people that are bearish and a huge amount that are bullish. It's a sign that the market has gone too far too fast, and maybe it needs to do a little bit more of a blow off top. Maybe we go to 4,400, 4,410. I don't see us going further than that before it needs to have a pullback to wash out some of these overly bullish investors. People were always overly bearish. The market took off, short squeeze. They flipped bullish. Now it's got to squeeze them in the other direction just at least a little bit. So be careful with longs here. And there's a reason that the market, it just stopped on a dime here. It hasn't done anything all week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, it's done basically nothing except get people to buy more, hopefully, to trap them. Let's go back. All right. So another thing I touched on is I talked about, we looked at this. We looked at the previous week and we looked at this week, even last week. And I said, look, when calls are this low relative to puts, it's normally a sign that the market is saying, okay, go ahead and run. Meaning have a significant move in the opposite direction of where most of the options are. And most of the options were puts. So it makes sense that the market took off and moved higher. None of this is a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise for anyone listening here. We have a massive put wall going into tomorrow, 4350, and then 4400 is basically your call wall. I could see this being pushed over, but I think they're not gonna let it go over this. They might as well cut it off here at the max pain is going to be 4350. So don't be surprised if they drop it down to that level. But it'll be somewhere between these two, 4350 and 4400. I know it says 435 and 440. It's because it's the S&P, SPY, but I mostly look at the SPX500 just because it trades more. So that's what's going on with options, and hopefully that explains some of my thoughts. Let's pull up the charts and really go through what's going on here. So you can see already the market's kind of pulling back, right? On a daily chart, I mean, this was a big, let me get rid of this, and I'm going to draw this. These are pretty big levels that it breached. Really big. Now we have a 7 that came in on Tom DeMark. And we also have, look at this. Look at this liquidity tag. They basically went, let me go to a 1 hour chart. Where did they go? Did they go up and take it higher? Did they go above? So they almost went to these highs and they took out these highs. Huge liquidity area, massive amount of stops run probably right here, especially today. So it makes sense that the market's reversing very quickly. This is going to be a huge resistance zone. I'll go back to the daily chart here. This is going to be a big resistance zone. It's the 50 MA. It's going to act as support. You can see it's acted as resistance and support in the past. Often, very often, well-respected line. This is where I think we'll get a bit of our pause. If I pull up the S&P, you'll see there's probably, I think there's a gap around that level. SPY daily chart. Where are our gaps? And get rid of all this. We don't need this. All right, so our gap right here. 50 EMA right here. So 431, 432 area. 431 would fill that gap. So that relative here is about right there, right around the 50 EMA. A little bit below it could spike. So expect a pullback. I'm looking for a pullback into that area. Something like that. And we play in this area. We create that W and then we just take off. And then I could see a move. If that's your pullback, that's all you get. Then your ABCD goes all the way up to this midpoint around 4,600. The old highs. I could see that easily happening. Because this breakout on the daily, it's quite bullish. It really is. On a 3-day chart, yeah, it looks decent. But it needs to pause. It was way too overbought and we need to get a pullback. So I'm looking for that pullback, that gap fill that I showed on the S&P chart. This does matter. We do have an 8, so we need time. So an 8 here, and then on the daily here we have a 7, but the 8 will come. It needs time to consolidate. So you get a pullback, consolidation area, and then you can have your next leg up. That's kind of what I'm seeing at this point. Unless there's some kind of fundamental event that happens, Powell says something, who knows. This is what I'm kind of seeing in the market. I do want to touch on this. This is going to be some of your resistance zones right here, like this and this. Yeah, this is going to be your big resistance area as well. But that daily chart looks bullish. I mean, unless this can reverse, it looks like a bit of a bullish breakout of our downtrend that we were working with since, basically since September. Now it's getting ready for that kind of, this would take us all the way into possibly December. I could see November just kind of oscillating in here. And then as we get closer to December, we get that Christmas rally. Oftentimes you always get the Christmas rally. So that's what I could see happening. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, if that makes sense. I'm in a small short here for this pullback. I'm playing this pullback, and then I plan to flip long depending on how the market looks down here in the 4,300 area. That's my thinking on the S&P. Let's look at the dollar really quick and see what's going on. Dollar, unfortunately, for all those dollar bulls out there, the dollar broke down pretty hard, even on like a weekly chart. This is your breakdown, right? You had a 9 come in, and that caused the breakdown. On a daily chart, significant breakdown. So now we're below that 50 EMA. You see how it's acting as a resistance and rejecting. So as long as the dollar's in this kind of downtrend, I don't see how we could get any major move to the downside in the market. I think, you know, generally at least the dollar has to be stuck in some kind of holding pattern for everything else that's priced in dollars to head in the other direction. And in this case, the dollar is looking pretty bearish. So I want to see some kind of consolidation, a W formation before I can get bullish on it again. For now, it's bearish to the downside. Possible chaos target would be like this. Somewhere down here to this 100 area, 101 area. Maybe better if I do fibs like this and we just look at the retracement zone. I don't know why it's showing this kind of fibs. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so this kind of zone, 120, 102, and 101. This zone especially is where I would look to... Where is my... Yeah, right here. This is where I'd look to consider longs and where I think the dollar could go to potentially. So just keep in mind, if you're a dollar bull, that we're probably going to get a pullback, and then other currencies perform a lot better. Okay, so that's the dollar. Let's look at, I know you guys want to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about it. I know it's going crazy. Don't worry. We will talk about it. I just want to go through the traditional finance stuff first really quick, and then we can talk about crypto. How long have I been talking anyway? About 11 minutes. So we've got plenty of time left. We got another 18 minutes or so to go through this. If you guys have any questions or anything you want me to touch on when I'm looking at these specific charts, feel free to ask. Okay, so that was S&P. That was dollar. Let's look at, by the way, NVIDIA, big breakout here, although you have a 7 on the daily, which is concerning. But this is actually a breakout of like a bullish flag. And NVIDIA could run hard all the way if this was the ABCD pattern, right? NVIDIA could run. Let's make sure we're not on a log scale, regular scale, okay? Could possibly run all the way to 700 plus. Like imagine that. That's a crazy move. Not as crazy percent-wise as the move from basically 150 all the way to 400, 500 almost. That was a much better move. But I mean, it could head up higher by about 50%, right? It's about, you know, from here, which is that 55% move. So something to keep an eye on. On the daily chart, it's looking very bullish. I don't like that 7's come in though. Nice long down here. This would have been the long opportunity down here at 400. But now that we've broken out, you want to see some kind of backfill here. I'd like to see a backfill, consolidation, and then a breakout. And that's when I would get long. So that's what I'm looking for with NVIDIA. Okay. There's a couple other things I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about gold. I'm going to touch on that really quick, and then we're just going to jump right into crypto. So here's gold. Gold had a bit of a pullback. If we look at a weekly chart, it actually broke out of the downtrend significantly from this level down here very, very, very quickly. And what it's doing now is it's consolidating before a possible next leg up. I want to see a pullback in gold. I would have liked to have seen a pullback all the way down to like 1900. We might only get a pullback down to this right here. Let me see, daily. Right down to this 1940 level before the dollar falls off the earth, and then gold takes off. This 7 is a big sign, and you can see it's already kind of reversing. See that? I would like to see one more pullback from here, maybe push up to 1970, pull back again, go right below the lows, and then something like that. Create your W, and my long would be here, and then I'd take another long here. Those would be my trades on gold, but we might not get that. It might just take off. And if that's the case, then I might long somewhere up here. So that's what I'm looking at for gold. I do think that the next leg up is forming, and you're going to get a pretty big move to the upside. I need to see a little bit better market structure before I can formulate some kind of concrete plan. But if you look at this 1 month chart of gold, let me delete this and let me delete that. You can see that gold's been in this consolidation range for quite a while. So if we're just doing simple ABCD, right? Just like that. I'm going to make it a little bit more conservative. Just like that. And then your next move is here. This is where it could go, 2,500. That's a pretty significant move. So if you got long just from it, right, basically where we are now, it's a nice 28% return in gold. Not bad. Huge move. Could easily see it happening after basically 3 years of consolidation. No reason why it couldn't move higher now. Let me see one thing with this here. This was our original W pattern. Yeah, this would be the area where I'd something like that, 2135. Interesting. Okay. All right, so that's kind of what I could see with gold. Now, okay, Bitcoin. Craziness, crypto. Bitcoin is going absolutely crazy. Our indicator, our main indicator at TRI, the breadth indicator, has actually been embedded. We got a long signal way back here, and we rode that up all the way up to here. And the signal's been embedded, the slow signal at least, has been embedded in the 100 area for days now. We've never had a Bitcoin signal this strong in the time we've been tracking the breadth. It's complete madness. And you can see with the RSI down below, it's also embedded. Look, the signal has not been this high. You haven't had something this strong since January. And it was the same exact thing. Look at the, can you guys see the similarities here? See, this was January, and look at what happened. We hit the top. I'm going to try to move my screen over so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, like that. So here was the top. And then you see how price just continued higher with this consolidation before it boop, 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 boop. And then it finally rolled over. And then we got to move higher. And then it pulled back, and it went down to the 200-day, and then it moved higher finally. We're getting something a little bit similar here, but more aggressive, where you can see it made that, descending. It created that divergence in the RSI indicator, but because the indicator is in this overbought super turbocharged zone, price is just moving higher, and it's going to keep moving higher until this indicator can pull back. Right now, there's no pullback, absolutely none. There is a bit of a divergence, but no pullback, and I think that's why on the lower time frames, something like a 4 hour, this was your trigger to go long, right here. You just buy 3,500 on this breakout test with the 4 hour. That was it. And stochastic, look how bullish it was up here. Right here. This was your buy. 35,400. Now the question is, where do we go next? Well, I mean, everyone is saying this 4,100 area. If I flip the chart, I should flip it, honestly. This is 61.8 of the entire previous move. So this is your next zone. And that's all kind of Bitcoin's doing. Like, this was your zone before, right? You were in this zone. And we're just leaving that zone. And we're going to the next zone. And where is the next zone? The next zone, looking at previous price action, is right here. Right there. So that's the next zone that we're basically entering now. And Bitcoin may just sit in that zone and play in that zone until it then either breaks down or moves higher again. I can push into this zone, or maybe it gets rejected. We do have a 9 here. Something to note, on a 3-day, we have a 9. And on a weekly chart, we have a 9. That's a bit concerning. When was the last time we had a 9 on Bitcoin? Well, if we go back here, we had a 9 here. What happened after the 9? We paused for 2 weeks, and then we took off and went higher. Another time we had a 9, we paused, and then we just took off and went higher. So I don't know how much Tom DeMark's 7, 8, and 9s matter on a weekly chart. It seems like most of the time you get a pause and a little bit of a pullback, or just a pause for a week, and then a move higher. Like look at this back in 2017. 9 came in, it didn't even matter. 9 here caused the pause. 8 here caused the pullback. So I wouldn't look if you're a Tom DeMark trader and you like to watch this very closely. I would not put too much emphasis on it. I wouldn't, because it's come in so many times and it hasn't worked on a weekly chart that well. 3-day chart has worked decently. See, a bunch of times where it worked pretty well actually. Right here, right here, right here. Here it didn't work. Here it didn't work. Here it didn't work. So don't put all your faith in something like a Tom DeMark indicator. Even though it's flashing warnings, it doesn't mean anything when you have an RSI that's embedded in the uptrend and is basically not going to stop. Also, I think we do have a significant amount of people still trying to short. So it's just squeezing those shorts, and it's going to keep doing that until pretty much I think we're over 38,000 at least. At least 38,000. It needs to get over that. It might tag this 61.8. It's just a big number. You can see how we tagged the 50% and pause there. It's kind of been going level to level. I'm going to delete this so you guys can see this. All right, can you see how it's just been going level to level? Here's the 38.2, and down here is your 0.236. Just it essentially just plays in these zones. So now it's in 38.2, and then it came up to the 50%, and I thought it would play in this 50% level a bit more, maybe pull back, something like this, tag the 50, 31, do that, and then take off. But it's just pushing higher. So now it could go up to this 41 and then play here and maybe get your pullback, and then it does something like that. That's totally possible. Or it could just completely take off. Very, 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 very possible, real possibility with crypto. You can never be 100% sure about what's going to happen. We do have this parallel channel to the upside that has been semi-respected down here. You can see. Let me try to make it a little bit cleaner here. Yeah, this would be about the cleanest. Right, like that. That would be a more conservative one. So this parallel channel might explain why price was rejected here. And that's kind of the uptrending channel that we're in at this point. Let's see if I can go to like a weekly chart. Be very interesting if this turns into a 5-wave series, and this was wave 1 right here. And that would mean wave 3 would be potentially going all the way. Wait 1 second here. I don't know why I keep getting this ugly thing. There you go. Wave 3 could go all the way up to 52,000. And then you get your wave 4, and then wave 5 is like up here at 60 something old highs. And then it all rolls over. That would be interesting if that was the case. I'm not saying it is, but this is a pretty significant breakout and level for Bitcoin that's just happened recently. Look at this, right? So this is your consolidation area, and this is your breakout right here. The breakout happened on October 16th, and it's just been straight up since then. So you do have this parallel channel blocking things, but you have a massively bullish weekly chart. Last time something like this happened was down here, pretty much like that. And you can see what happened to price after. Kind of took off. This was the other time, right? This is more similar to what recently happened. Price took off, and it really went up here, and it just sat up here for a while before finally pulling back and consolidating, coming into that 200-day moving average, which acts as a major support. And you can see it here on the weekly. Sorry, 200 week, 29,000 is where we're at right now. We got 21 people watching. Why are you guys talking? We got 21 people watching. You guys should ask questions, say things. Otherwise, I'm going to end the stream and we're going to have to go to the after party, and we might lose a bunch of you guys. This is your chance. That's kind of what I'm seeing with Bitcoin. Just be careful up here. There is significant divergence. It can stop, but it can also just keep going. This is one of the hardest things to deal with. if you miss the initial run up, you need to be very careful once we're up here, and this is where you can start taking profits and things like that. MS I can, but maybe just sign up on our site under the free trial and ask me in the after party. You can just sign up right away and join the after party, which we post in our Discord. I can't really go over those kind of tiny names in this show. We have to stop. I have to stop soon, and then we'll go to the after party where I'm going to answer questions for like an hour for members. Okay, well, let's talk about it in the after party. Ask me there. Can you review Sol? Yeah, I can also look at Sol in the after party. I think I'm going to look at total. I think that'll be the most helpful. We're going to look at total 3 without Ethereum or anything like that, and see how this is taken off. You can see this broke out right on a 3-day chart. Massive breakout here. Right here. This was basically your long opportunity, October 28th. How long ago did that happen? I mean, that was just not even 2 weeks ago. 7 days, 8, 9, just like 11 or 12 days ago. You had this breakout, and that was your big move. Very obvious on a 3-day chart and a weekly chart. Look at that breakout right there. That's a big move. Huge signal, especially right here on a 3-day, running into that 200-day moving average. I don't see any stopping here with the altcoins either. Very strong. Very, very strong. Mark, just ask me about Sol again in the after party. Oh, you can see we're pushing above these previous highs from April. Obviously going to be resistance. I would be careful longing anything up here. If you're already in longs, you should consider taking profits, because this is, if there was ever an area for us to reject and pull back, it would be this area. So just keep that in mind. I want to look at like a 2-week chart. Very interesting to look at a 2-week chart to see how finally we're kind of on the other side of this. If this does push through here, I mean, this is a W basically, right? So if this is a W, we can apply chaos to it, and we can say this is the breakout, and then these are your levels. You're going to push up to here, 1.618. It'll pause there, and you'll play in that level, and then you'll head up to 2.618, pause, play in that level, where you finally head all the way up to the 4.669, which is at 800. It's only actually a double from where we are now. So altcoins are not up that much relative to Bitcoin. I mean, from the bottom, at least on the overall chart here, you're only up 25%, while it could go 147%, or in this case, 100% basically from where it's at right now. So something to keep in mind, if this keeps pushing higher, like it has to breach this area. This is the major resistance zone. This is something you want to wait for. Yeah, so Dan, if you aren't in any trades, I'm basically explaining what you would do here. You want to wait to see if this pushes above the previous highs. If it does, like this, and then comes back and retests it, that's where you get long, right here. And you set your stops right down, kind of below, right down here. Oh, you wait to see what happens here. We have to see what is going on with price. Do we get our pullback, or is this going to be a massive breakout? And I mean, S&P is pulling back now, so let's see if that slows crypto down. But again, I'm expecting this S&P pullback to be short-lived. So I'm thinking, you get the S&P pullback, you get the crypto pullback. This is your long opportunity, and then things take off. That's what I'm thinking can happen. That's what is logical, looking at the December rally and all this stuff. But I don't know. Here's my concern. We looked at that investor sentiment survey, right? And how everyone's flipped bullish. That is a concern for me when a lot of people are bullish. And I question if this type of pullback, just a 4,300 here, is enough to wash out the bullishness from traders. Or if we need something more significant down to 4172 or something like that. I mean, if I go to the SPY, there's multiple gaps that were left here. I don't see why we couldn't get a pullback. Let's see here. Where is my brush? Right here. Pullback all the way down to here. These are all the gaps. Let's go to a 4-hour. Yeah, so this is the gap you want to fill, this 42.30 gap. That, if that happened fast and furiously, that would knock out all the bulls and then give a good opportunity to move higher. If we just go to here, that leaving that gap down here there will concern me. Yeah, there's a lot of longs that we have to liquidate. Again, for anybody late, I showed this chart. This is the problem. 42% bullish. Last week was max pain to the upside, and even the week before too, we had 43%. So now we flipped, right? So 1025 was when I also talked about max pain was to the upside, and that was so 1026. So let's look at 1026 really quick. Let's go look at that. Where were we on 1026? So 1026 was right here. Okay, and we had like basically one more day to the downside before the market reversed. And that was at a 43% bearish sentiment. Now we're at a 42.6% bullish sentiment. So what that tells me is, okay, we have maybe one more day of a little bit higher, or at least a pause before then we have our pullback. And then next week we get our pullback, and we see how much of a pullback we get. And that sets up which direction we're going to go. Either it does this and then that, or it does this. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And you guys have a good plan. But going into tomorrow, what's my price range? Basically here to here. That's the price range. I don't see it going outside that price range. There's no reason for it to go outside that price range. One other thing I wanted to look at that I almost forgot about is the big options expiry. I always like to look at that. What is the date of the big options expiry? 11/17. That's the monthly. See how many more calls and puts there are? Look at how many puts there are. Look at how few calls. You've only got 85,000 calls. You got 110,000 puts, 100,000 puts at every price level. Do you think they're going to let the market go down going into next week? I don't see it happening. Way better to go to move to the upside. Way more profitable. Could just stay here, but I don't think they will. I think you get your pullback, and maybe we sit in the 43.50 area again. Maybe we go down to 4300, like I'm saying, just a little bit of a pullback, and then we push to the upside. Let me check options one more week out, but I don't think those don't really matter. After 11/17, it doesn't really matter that much. They can move the market wherever they want. But looking at this again, you have almost no calls and a lot of puts. So again, it just looks like max pain to the upside, but they've got to wash out this bullishness. There's too much bullish sentiment. Okay, let's see what you guys said. Dan, would that concern you because it would lead to even more violent move in the future? Yeah, of course it's concerning. There's a lot of weird stuff going on that's concerning. Yeah, it's always the third week in the month, Dan. Almost always. That options have the highest value and the most importance. Okay. Hopefully you guys are all members. If you're not, consider signing up for a free trial. And we will talk in the after party. We do after parties after every show, and that's where we answer all of your detailed questions about. I will look at any specific stock that you want, any crypto, and we'll go into detail, and I'll give you my thoughts on every single one, and answer any other questions that you might have. I'm here every Thursday, and Brian's here the rest of the time. We're going to do 10 a.m. Eastern time going forward, at least for Thursdays, just because it's too late to go do the normal time for me. It'll be midnight here, and I'm just going to be sleepy, and that's no fun for anybody. Okay, anyway. See you in the after party, hopefully. And if I don't, hope you have a great weekend and a great rest of the week. Be careful out there, and make sure you don't stare at your screen every day. Try to get up, move around, exercise, Healthy body equals a healthy mind equals a healthy bank balance, hopefully. Anyway, okay. I'll see you guys in the after party or next week. All right. Bye, everybody.